Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Rachel. Today, we're very excited to start our first interview of our co-founder series, where we will interview and share the stories of all of our co-founders of the LCC. So today, we are happy to have Cindy Kohler. Cindy, welcome. We're so happy to be talking to you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. And okay, so Cindy, tell us a little bit about your background before we get started with LCC. What's your story? Where do you come from? What's a little bit of your history?
Sure. I grew up in the Texas Panhandle and came to Austin in 1984 to go to school and knew I was home immediately and accidentally got into the real estate development business. Uh, got married and divorced in the 90s. In 2002, got Hodgkin's lymphoma, which shaped my life going through that experience. After that, ended up switching from residential development to commercial development in my career. And let's see, like most people, I switched jobs during the pandemic. And then 2023 is when I got long COVID.
Yeah, definitely. And she's a famous content creator for her dog fits that she didn't want to brag about.
Well, I left out the best thing in my life, which is Fits, but yeah.
Fits, of course. Look her channel up. Yeah, Cindy, tell us a little bit about your long COVID story. You said it was 2023. How did that kind of play out and bring you to where you are today?
I got long COVID twice. And the first time I got it, looking back, I see I had some long COVID symptoms. I just wasn't educated enough to know that that's what they were. And then I got it again in August of 2023. And I was fortunate. I had because she just quit the business, but I had a doctor knew me very well and diagnosed me very quickly. And so I didn't have to go through that journey that so many people did of not knowing, not finding doctors who understood. I knew immediately what it was. And I did, I guess, what most people do. I looked on Facebook for others who had it and found a group in Austin, ATX Long COVID. I think that's the name of it. And the timing was great because it just happened to be the very first Friday that we decided to have a Zoom support group. So I jumped on that Zoom, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I know, like, for those that don't know, that Facebook group was very instrumental for all of us. It's kind of how all the founders first connected with each other. We all joined, for whatever reason, but mostly seeking community, seeking kind of shared experience.
Yes.
So you obviously joined before I did. I didn't join until later on, but that's kind of how the connection started on there. And then of course, from there, we kind of, the few of us that were interested in doing more talked and we were like, what can we do? So tell us, I want to go back to your illness story, but first I want to talk a little bit about kind of those early days of LCC and how you connected with people through the Facebook page and what
Sure.
kind of motivated you to want to be more involved in creating what is now the Long COVID Collective.
Well, I want to be careful how I say this because I would never say this to another person. I had this overwhelming sense that there was purpose in this for me, this illness, and that I was supposed to do something with it. And I thought it had to do something with helping other people. And I'm careful about that because the "oh, you got this for a reason" thing is a terrible thing to say to another person. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to say that to anyone, that this was just my experience. It was very loud in my head. And not long before this, I'd kind of been before I got sick, kind of stomping around my house in this, I should be doing something to help people. I don't like what I'm doing in life kind of thing. Gotta be careful what you ask for because hello.
Yes, you do. That's the lesson to learn.
Mhm. But that was that helped me a lot, feeling there was some purpose in it. And the older you get, the more I say life turns into improv of yes and instead of fighting everything that's happened. It's like I have a chronic illness, and now what? Um,
Yeah.
I did not think, however, when I was going through this, oh, I'm going to help people, that it would get as bad as it did, or that I'd still have it 3 years later. Glad I didn't know that. Uh, but the first part, I mean, the mental part was helped me a lot in the beginning because the mental side of this illness is so, so difficult. And a lot of that mental difficulty comes from the reactions of other people,
Yeah.
the misunderstanding, the judgment, uh, the doubting, uh, that I didn't go through it except maybe at my job
Yeah.
too much and maybe with a few people on Facebook, but I've observed a lot of people who've really been harmed by that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, it is such a hard aspect of it, like as if the physical side wasn't enough and our own personal kind of emotional journey, and then kind of getting bombarded with the doubt, the questioning,
right.
all those other aspects that are so difficult. So, since you brought it up, like you say, and I know we've talked about this, but like, your own kind of beliefs about, wanting to help people, seeing it as an opportunity to help others. I know that your own cancer journey played into how you've coped with the illness over the past 3 years. Talk a little bit more about like how that kind of shaped how you confronted it, whether that's through acceptance, the LCC, but what kind of personal, I guess, motivations got you through this?
Well, so when I got cancer, I decided in my messed up little head that I was going to um, get through cancer like I thought Audrey Hepburn would. Like, what does that even mean? It was very much I was going to, oh, I have the good kind of lymphoma. It's fine.
Mm.
It was by no means fine.
Yeah.
It was miserable. But I don't know why we think we need to do that.
Yeah.
And and also it's a dishonest thing to do because do you expect other people to go through that when they have to act that way when they go through an illness? Because that's really what you're saying. It was
Yeah.
very interesting reading Christina Applegate's book because when she went through, I believe it was breast cancer, she talked about being on the Oprah show and she was doing the same thing,
Oh.
being,
Mm.
I'm so happy to have the opportunity to help others going through it, which I'm sure she was, but she said she was putting on a facade. And so when she got MS, she dropped all that and
Yeah.
talked about what it's really like, which that is more of being in service to people than the other is.
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting because you're absolutely right. Like, and I don't know the specific book do you remember the name of that book that you're referring to?
Sad Eyes, it
Okay.
just came out, I think, in March or April. It's a really good
Okay.
book.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'd like to read that because I feel like it is such a thing where you try and minimize, right, your illness, minimize your
Mhm.
experience to make other people comfortable more than anything. Maybe some of it for yourself, but largely to just like diminish it and say, okay, this is fine, we're going through it. So it's kind of the two tier. Like you want to accept it and do what you can in your situation, but of course, you also want to like validate what you're going through. So,
Yeah, you spend a lot of time making everyone else feel better about the fact that you have cancer.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So tell us, I guess, now about given, the platform that we have now as founders of the LCC and that how much the LCC has like grown over the past, what, how long? 2 years? I don't even know at this point. 2.5? I don't know.
Two and something.
Two
Well,
and something.
if we could, I wanted to go back to a question you asked about how it
Yeah.
got started.
Yes. Go for it.
Um, it became very clear, I think, in all of our minds as we were having these group meetings and hearing about the things that people were struggling with, where it was jobs or finances or getting the dishes done, just getting by. Wow, anyone who has this needs help.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see if the other co-founders say this. I don't remember the time because time's all a blur, but I remember this period of time where it felt like I could feel this energy where we all had the same idea at the same time in our heads. We had different ideas of how we wanted to approach it and what we wanted from it, but we were all there with this, we need to organize and help other people. So How it came about, I really felt like seeds were planted in all of the co-founders' heads, and that it was just meant to be. And, there's one thing about wanting to do it and another executing, whether you have an illness or not, but
Sure.
especially with an illness. And I remember Dave Job, I think he was at my house or on the phone, I don't remember. I had said that I would, I wanted to do a lot of writing that we could put on the website. And I was, that's so much. I wasn't really wanting to get started. And he's like, you can do it. Just go use AI. I bet you have it done in 30 minutes. Just do it. And
Totally.
so I was like, okay. Well, I went I think it was a Friday, and I was still working then, and wrote a lot of things. And it was that tangible thing that gave us a start. Like, okay, we have stuff written. And
Right.
then I know that Maggie and Mason were working on other things at the same time, but it was those little things of, okay, let's make this real.
Right.
And I had a thing in the beginning. I wanted a link. Somebody please send me a link that I can send to my managers, my family, my friends, and explain what's happening to me right now and what could happen to me. Because you don't know all these things that are happening. You don't know what's going on. Doctors barely know what's going on, but you're supposed to tell everybody else what's going on. It's a very difficult position to be in. And as I learned more about it, especially Laura Thomas's story in the beginning about how she barreled through it and worked for 2 years until she couldn't work anymore and ended up, basically bedbound. I remember sitting right here thinking, not going to happen to me,
Right.
which it was a warning sign for me. We're very similar in our diagnoses and how our bodies are reacting. And I followed in her footsteps and kept pushing at my job and going further and further down. But,
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up that from the beginning because I had kind of forgotten that that is how it came about, but it really was like, and I agree with what you said. It was this shared energy that I think we all felt like we were both, I mean, all of us were in this bad place in our lives, like, honestly the worst, and we're all struggling, and but we had just met all these people that, at least for me, I remember it being like very, I don't know, it gave me a lot of energy knowing that like you were there and Maggie was there and Mason, and we're all going through the same things. And like it did make me want to like, it motivated me as well to like do something, share something. And I remember the website when you made those pages because the initial website was just those pages that you made. And then, we gave them to me and whoever else helped with that, and then kind of put those on the website because it really was about like, what do you do if you have long COVID? How can you tell? What does it feel like? If you're a friend or a family member, how can you help somebody in your life that has long COVID? Because it was, as you said, like very much like we're tired of explaining this to everybody that we interact with. So what can we just help anybody in this community in the easiest way possible by having this sheet? It was like 2 pages at the beginning, the website, and it was mostly the resources page, which is where we put your clips of the advice, the story that you would put there about what it feels like, how to help somebody, and just posted it so that we could then share that with, our group, which is interesting because that is what LCC was at the very beginning, was literally just like a resource page,
mhm.
and a website to share so that people wouldn't have to go through the energy and exhaustion of explaining it to other people, which is crazy how it's evolved from then.
It is. I mean, and how it's still evolving
How it's
and
still
how we're
evolving.
figuring out what our role is and what it can be. It's actually
Exactly.
very exciting.
Exactly. It is. And I want to call you out because you, since the very beginning, since those first pages that you gave us, you were always very adamant. Like everybody in LCC had different interest areas, right? So like Mason and Maggie were very much like hands-on service. So we tried the meal train, which we're hoping to bring back at some point, and like service opportunities for people to do part-time work. And then there's like, Virginia and people who are in the arts field that want like opportunities to express creatively through art. And then there's obviously you, who you believe that social media and like connection was such a big, important thing that was missing, right? From this community. We all felt so
Yes.
isolated. And so that's part of the, motivations for you with the, not only the website, but then later the social media channels and really kind of bringing people together under that. And a key part of our social media, especially from the beginning, was like that shared humor almost. Like it wasn't supposed to be a page with all the research, like that's out there. It wasn't supposed to be a page of necessarily like a even just like emotional like connection about talking about symptoms because we have a support group for that, but it was really supposed to be uplifting. So tell us a little bit about how that came about and why that kind of uplifting vibe was so important for the social media for you.
I think especially with the when you're surrounded by doubt and a lack of understanding, that needing to feel seen and understood and heard is imperative and an important part of healing. I mean, I relate everything back to what I went through when I had cancer. And, with chronic illness, it's not linear. And you can have a good day, you can have a good week even, and then, you go back down. But it's confusing not only to you, but it's confusing to other people. And it's not like that with cancer. It's just, it is what it is. And so that part confuses people, and you end up doubting yourself. Well, maybe it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad right this second, but give it an hour. I mean, and you don't learn that except through experience. So I wanted people to see themselves and feel seen and heard and understood. You have to laugh.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. I do think I will post something that I think is funny, and I do like dark humor, and everyone puts those little hug emojis on it. I'm like, why are you laughing? That part was funny.
Laugh.
I still don't get that. But
To each their own reaction,
yeah.
but
And then I wanted to be a voice for those who aren't comfortable expressing what they're feeling, whether they're feeling angry at something that was said to them or hurt by something that was said to them, or all the things we hear people talk about or I read about. I read a lot of support groups online. I go in the comment section a lot to see just what people are experiencing, and that informs what I post.
yeah.
And I often write from first person, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's my experience. It's a collective experience.
Sure. And you're so good at that and really like embodying like this, yeah, like you said, collective shared experience that because I sometimes I read your posts and I didn't even know it was relatable until I read it and I'm like dying laughing because it's so funny and I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but I never would have thought of it. So the creativity there is so important. Um, I know that creativity for you, you're a very creative person, Cindy, and you've, shared with us and, people in LCC, but different ways that aside from LCC specific work, like creativity is one of the ways that has really helped you cope with long COVID, chronic illness in general. So tell us a little bit about, your hobbies. What helps you get through the day? What kind of
Sure.
motivates you as far as creativity
Well, I
project?
feel like, first of all, doing the social media is a gift,
Yeah.
because if something, I feel something, I experience something, well, I can just turn around and turn it into a post immediately and then go on with my day. So it's a way for me to process, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. Uh, so I've always wanted to be a writer. And I have been gifted journals my entire life. And they've all been in a stack in my office because I felt like if I start writing in a journal, it must be prose. It must be my future book. So you can't get started when that's
True.
what's
It's
in
way
your
too
head.
intimidating.
And being an avid TikToker, I discovered Journal Talk and the idea of having a journaling ecospace where you don't have one journal, you have several journals and they have different functions. And one is where I write down quotes that I really like or speak to me. One is ideas. One is about bits. um, One is just creative junk journaling, just doing whatever I feel like in the moment. So now I couldn't tell you how many because I have so many,
Yeah.
but learning that really opened up a world for me that I am loving. And the other thing is, you know, all we don't write anymore. We don't write by hand anymore because we're always using a typewriter. And there's such an important brain connection with writing by hand. And there have been a lot of videos I've seen lately specifically about writing in cursive by
Mhm.
hand and what that does for your brain. So that became an important part of it too, because I mean, long COVID is brain damage. So I wanted to be actively doing things to help my brain. I can feel that connection so much now that I'm writing so much by hand and in cursive. You can feel it happening. You feel more connected to yourself.
That is so interesting. And I mean, you're right. It's a lost art these days, with the texting and the computers and everything. And for the average person, but let alone us who our brains are, struggling with everything
Right.
biologically. And this is also your own personal passions evolved into what is now the LCC Pen Pal program. So
Yes, I'm
talk
so
about the Pen
excited.
Pal program.
I love that so much. Yeah, so snail mail clubs are a thing that's trending right now where people create their art, they write a letter, they send you stickers, you pay $9.95 a month and you get something in the mail. So that all helped form the idea of having a chronic illness pen pal club. And we've had people from all over the world sign up for it. And I'm not sure about everyone else's experience because I haven't had a whole lot of feedback, but I love my pen pal so much.
Oh,
I just got two letters from her yesterday, and
oh,
it's just delightful
amazing.
hearing about her life. We actually don't talk about our illness very much. Maybe if it plays into something, like she's dating and, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're just talking about life and our joys. And we talk about what are we listening to on the radio right now? What are we watching on TV? What are we reading? That was the other thing, not having work since I don't have a job anymore opened up all that space for reading.
I love that.
And I do audiobooks because reading print is very draining for me now and I can't comprehend. So audiobooks are just a gift. And I've been trying to do a different genre every time. And that's been great to get back into.
Yeah, I bet. I love
And
that. And
then back on the brain thing, they say that dancing is one of the best ways for your brain because you
wow.
have physical movement and remembering the choreography at the same time. Well, that's not an option. I used to try to learn TikTok dances at home for that
Yeah.
reason before I got sick because I thought it was fun, but now I can't do that. So I bought a flute and I'm learning how to play the flute and learning how to read music. And that is also really
Oh.
fun and bringing me a lot of joy.
Yes, the music. You inspire me with everything you do. Like because you do the art, the writing, the music, the social media. I'm like, I need to do more art. I need to do more creative things because I love seeing you do all of it.
I think art is one of the most important things in life.
Yeah. I agree. It's healing, and I think a lot, you and others, but there's so many people in our group, that really have like the creative outlet is very so healing, There's like people that do art because they can't work, like you're saying, or they found these
Mhm.
other ways to express themselves, for their love of things, their hobbies. And I think that's such a amazing thing. And I think,
It's the mechanism of how we understand ourselves is through
yeah,
art, through
you're
reading a
right.
book, through reading someone's story, through hearing a song, through
Yeah,
looking at a painting.
I
It's
agree.
so important, and I don't understand why it's not considered more important,
I
in our
agree.
world and
And
in our
it's
funding.
something right that's left out, and it's honestly, if you look at the good things that come out of something like chronic illness, I think for me anyway, that like one of those things is learning new, simpler joys, like maybe you can't take that big trip, maybe you can't do that big thing, but you can color or you can paint at home.
Yeah,
And it's kind of very grounding. I think that a lot of people with chronic illness find these kind of new home-based passions that a lot of people that aren't sick, they just don't do them. They don't do the hobbies because they're so busy with work. They're going out all the time to dinner. So I think it's a good opportunity.
right. The energy's not there.
Exactly.
And one thing I discovered that I'm really loving because it's so liberating is I'm doing things with no purpose. I'm not planning on publishing my journal that I may spend 2 hours on one page. I'm not planning on having a flute recital. All these things have no expected end to them, like
Yeah,
everything in your life does. From the
right.
moment you start school, if you're doing art, you're going to show it to your mom, you're showing it to your teacher.
Exactly.
Everything has an expectation attached to it.
Wow.
And not having expectations attached to your writing, to your art, to your music, to whatever you're doing is freeing and liberating and so much more fun, at least for me.
Yeah. I agree. I love that. And that's something that more people should do, I think, because it is freeing, right? You don't have to stick to the confines of whatever, structure this has to be to show it off or whatever. It's just for joy, for the pure joy of doing it, which I
Right.
love. I love that. Um, so this kind of leads into one of the last questions, which is what brings you joy and hope now, Cindy? Whether that's in your own life, in the world, share your thoughts.
Everything. I
Everything.
mean, the first answer, of course, has to be my Scottish Terrier, Fitz. I
It's
mean, Fitz is joy, but everything, people, books, art, writing, music, movies, ideas, just having a conversation, a meaningful conversation. It's, I had a post recently about how with chronic illness, you get to know friends on a level that you may never have had with other friends very quickly. And
absolutely.
that for people like me, that's my ideal world because going to a party and mingling and asking what somebody does and hearing their resume makes me just drains the life out of me.
Yeah,
I would rather just come up to you at a party, Rachel, and say, Rachel, what do you think is blocking you from living the life that you really want to live?
yeah,
That interests me.
yeah.
The rest
Agreed.
I struggle with.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
agree.
I like those deep conversations.
I love that. You're right. In chronic illness, it takes all the barriers away. So really, you just go right into the core of it, which I love too.
Right.
It's so much more meaningful,
It's more authentic to me.
way more authentic.
Yeah.
I agree. So yeah, Cindy, given like, how your own creativity and everything has helped you and we've seen it help so many others, why would you say if someone has a chronic illness, has long COVID and they're not a part of a group or they've maybe seen LCC but don't know if they want to get involved, why would you recommend that they do? Or what do you think it could help for them?
Connection is just an important part of your healing as whatever your doctor's doing. It is critical to healing to have connection, and that is what we offer. We offer it in a variety of different ways. And we also offer acceptance. Come as you are, you'll be accepted as who you are. It is a beautiful thing. Everyone should have this, chronic illness or not.
I agree.
And I don't know, it hurts me to think of anyone going through this journey without connection, without having people around them where they don't have to explain themselves. They can say one sentence and everyone's nodding, like, yeah, we get it.
Right.
And you don't have that with people who don't have it because they don't get it. So, yeah, I think everyone should be a part of LCC who has an
Me
illness.
too. Me
You
too.
can hang out with us and on Wednesday night and play trivia. And again, no pressure because we all have brain fog and we expect, the funnier the answers are the ones that are where you can't think straight.
Exactly.
Speaking of brain fog, I just have to tell you this real quickly.
Listen.
I was going to put in my breakfast so that I could get ready real quickly before this and maximize my time. And I went back to the microwave and opened it up, and there was nothing in there.
No, what were you gonna make? What?
It was sitting on the counter.
No, Cindy, no. I'm pretty sure what did I almost do the other day that was so bad? I think I almost put like lotion in something. I don't even like something to eat. I don't even know what it was, but I was like, oh boy, not not good.
Yeah, the brain fog is scary.
It can be for
But
sure.
it's scary, but also if you're part of a group, it's immediately a story. It's like, ah,
Exactly.
can't wait
We
to tell
love
everybody I
sharing
did
the
that. It's
stories.
hilarious.
It's so funny. We love sharing brain fog stories and we get a good laugh out of it and it's
Right.
wonderful.
And there's no obligation or duty or fear or stress
Yeah.
being a part of this group. which
Exactly.
is refreshing because before this, life just felt like stress.
Yeah. You're right. It's only here to uplift. It's not here to make you do anything. It's not here to add work. We have people that, they want to help and they help out for a month and they say, I need to take time off. And they take 3 months off. We don't hear from them. But then they come back because there's no obligation involved. It's purely just for that community, like you said, that connection. And
Right.
because we want to help people. We just want to be there for people. We're just trying to love people at the end of the
Yes,
day.
exactly.
Yeah. What is your thoughts for the future, Cindy, or your dreams or hopes for the LCC?
I hope that it grows, obviously, and that we can find more people to connect with, or more people find us to connect with, and they can be so inspired by what we're doing that maybe they want to do it in their part of the country or in their part of the world, where we spread like infectious laughter.
Love
Like
that.
we have chapters everywhere of people like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. I want to offer this to other people. Because to me, I've never been involved with something that feels so purely of love. And that's what our organization feels like to me. Maggie's the one to talk about our future because she's got our 5-year plan and she's so smart. I'm
Nice.
so glad we have her. And she's got it all mapped out with the details. And my head is not in that space. And I honestly don't have the brain to do that anymore. All I can do is feel. And what I feel is love going and little laughter chapters everywhere.
Laughter chapters. I love this. Absolutely love that. Yeah, awesome. Well, Cindy, that I just can't think of a better note to end this on than that. So uplifting and positive. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your joy. I love talking to you, and I'm so glad that people will get to know a little bit more about you now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.